Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece. Episodes 607, through 609. A fierce battle gets heated. Luffy versus Caesar. A mastermind underground. Doflamingo makes his move. And Luffy dies from exposure. The spine-chilling snow woman Monet. In these episodes, y'all, remember how I was complaining with the last arc that the fight is so just dudes hovering in the water punching at each other and it was boring? I do not have that complaint with this arc at all. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. Y'all, this arc has been so fun. I'm having such a good time. This fight was so interesting to watch because we have added so many, the whole thing with the fact that Caesar can take the oxygen out of the room. I meant to bring up last episode the fact that Luffy is going in there and he's truly acting like this time this fight's going to be different. And I meant to ask, why is it going to be different? Because he could still do the thing to you, right? Like, I was sort of going, well, have you figured out a way around that? Because I don't know how. And it turns out he hadn't so much figured a way around it as he had figured out a way to assess how effective it is. And what Luffy does during this first episode is he tests the way that the oxygen power works by moving as far away as he can and seeing if it's still working. So he can assess a sort of boundary beyond which he can start to breathe again. And so it's just crazy to me how simple a mechanism that is in terms of the overall way that the power works and something that Luffy has to figure out. It's a really simple, straightforward, what's the word I want? Boundary, I guess, to the power. And I mean that literally and figuratively. It's a literal, there's a boundary line where it doesn't work anymore. But also, as somebody writing a scene, you do have to figure out, okay, what are the actual outer limits of what I can have this character do? Because they have to have some kind of weakness, of course. You know, you've got to build in some way in which this thing either can be defeated or is less effective than you might think, or has this one particular little weakness that you could maybe exploit, like you're sticking a crowbar in there and wedging it open. And so what I really loved was Luffy dancing backward out of the way, trying to just sort of find the spot where he can get out of range. And all it is straight up Caesar chasing him. Caesar is just pursuing him and no, I'm going to get you. And it's such, again, it's so simple, but it makes the scene so much more interesting to watch. And he occasionally does get within range and occasionally does manage to pull the oxygen out of Luffy's lungs again. And so Luffy has to find another way out. And you guys, this fight was so much more compelling because of this. And especially because as viewers, we weren't told ahead of time that this was what Luffy was going to do to try to find a way around it. So for him to try and puzzle this out. Look, I'm going to sound really bitchy here. And I don't mean to sound bitchy, but I will say to a degree this isn't really my fault. But Luffy, you don't have a reputation of being the smartest guy in the group. You don't have, you're not somebody that I think of as being a real critical thinker. Now, I love you anyway. That's not really what you're here for. I get it. But it can get a little bit tiresome. It can sometimes feel like, bruh, what all you do is bring your punchy kickies to the table. Can we just And I was actually like in a maternal way sort of beaming with pride at the fact that he, it seems, has sort of figured this out for himself. Now, I may be wrong about this, and it may be that Law told Luffy this ability only works so far. It may have even happened on camera and I missed it. I don't know. I don't remember though, so I'm giving Luffy the credit as of right now. And it's just kind of nice to think that maybe he managed to do this himself. Um, because overall, the sense of this fight, especially once you have Monet in there, I wasn't entirely I wasn't like upset about the speech that Zoro gives in the last episode where he's just like, Luffy, dude, you really got to get it together. Like, this is not the grand line. We're in the new world. There are new standards here. If we don't start to fucking play for keeps, we're screwed. And as much as Sanji, I think, is the one who says, like, just what we needed, a kick in the ass. A part of me was sort of like, ouch. I kind of knew Zoro was right. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not even really arguing because there have been a few times where I'm watching this going, our friends are supposed to be stronger now. We're on the other side of 2 years. Why do they keep getting got like this? So it sort of felt a little bit like the author lampshading that. Um, but all that said, Zoro saying that, it just sort of felt like in the moment it's meant to give Luffy a boost. And it felt like his speech was treated with more gravity than it really seemed to deserve to me. And then when we get to the third of these 3 episodes and Luffy going up against Monet and the way that that speech comes to mind and pushes him through, I found that really gratifying because, like I said, I wasn't totally sure what I was supposed to get out of it. It felt a little bit like, yeah, that's all well and good to say, but so what? And this was, I for this moment was very much like, okay, there it is. That's what we have been waiting to see, is the moment where Luffy is like on the edge of being taken down, and it gives him the strength to push through and get back up again. Um, so I'm ahead of myself as I so often am. Let's go back to a fierce battle gets heated, Luffy versus Caesar. And it's really great, you guys, because the last episode ended with Luffy just punching Caesar in the face. So as this one begins, Luffy is still continuing to come at Caesar. And at first, he had landed that one punch at the end of the last episode, and I was sort of like, oh shit, is he just gonna like be able to beat the shit out of this guy all of a sudden? But no, that one punch lands. And then when we begin here, Caesar is doing all of this stuff where he's like lighting gas on fire. You guys, I could not believe when this motherfucker asks Luffy, what is your reason for attacking me? Are you fucking high? And Luffy is just like, because you tried to kill me and my friends and a bunch of other people. I was like, okay, yeah, thank you. Like, it was such a weirdly effective gaslighty moment. I was just like, what do you mean, why? Um, and Luffy then says also, something cool is supposed to happen if I capture you. I don't know what that means exactly. If he's saying that, like, capturing you will trigger an effect of your abilities, or I will get something out of it as a reward. I'm not really sure what he means by that. But I will say that I like the fact that Caesar instantly knows that you must have thrown in with Law. I have to assume this is like a triggering of some kind of weird deal with his Logia type. I don't that's just my guess. Is like this is some information that only Law has about the way that things work with Caesar's power. And I may be wrong about that, but it's just sort of the impression that I got. Um Caesar says, trusting in him is an act of foolishness. Take it from my experience, he will betray you. Which is just so funny because Caesar really seems to be under the impression that Law is just out here, like, betraying genuine alliances and stuff. And it's like, dude, you guys were never really on the same side because you were doing psycho shit. And I was just so puzzled as to why Law would be working with somebody who did this shit. And it turns out there's a whole other something up. I should point out also here, we still don't know what it is that Robin was sent to do. So that's something that has been on my mind as well. Is just what was it that Luffy sent Robin to handle? And I can't, like, there's this SAD is the name, it just looks like it says sad. There's no like periods between the letters when you actually see the thing. But SAD is what we keep calling this particular weapon that Law is apparently going after. And I am not, like, obviously I don't know what this weapon is. I know that it probably has something to do with how Law wants to take down some of the, are they emperors? I'm trying to remember what the official title is um of the new world. So clearly whatever it is that he is up to, I have to assume it's linked to that. And I, like, is that something that Luffy sent Robin to do something about? Like, what would that even be? Because the reaction, I'm sorry guys that I'm jumping around so much here, but a lot of things are sort of linked to other things here, which is part of what's making this so much more fun of an arc, that there's like little mysteries built in, stuff that I couldn't have predicted. um but if the way that we saw Virgo react to finding out, oh, wait, Law isn't here. If he's not here, that means he's trying to get at this other thing. And Virgo seems genuinely kind of like, shit, like it's a bit of a panic moment, it seemed like to me. If, what could cause Virgo to have that reaction? What's something that could have an effect serious enough that Virgo begins to kind of a little bit panic? Because y'all, he wasn't panicking at all about the weapon that Caesar Clown is himself creating. And that seemed pretty fucking bad. So if this weapon didn't cause him to bat an eyelash, whatever it is that Caesar is about, or that Law is about to go after, either it's way, way worse, like a lot more powerful somehow, but I have a hard time believing that's exactly it. What it seems to me is that we're getting like a this this weapon is going to be something that fucks with the power structure of things more. And I've got to be honest, I don't have any idea what that could be. But it's the only thing that I could imagine making Virgo more worried than a bomb that can end all life on an entire island. Like, what Caesar has created and dispatched here is essentially a nuke, like, that can be undone, I imagine, eventually, turning everybody from stone back to people again. As of right now, we don't know that it can be undone, but, like, come on, of course it can be undone. This is One Piece. So I'm just sort of going with that as a nuke as of right now because we don't know a way to undo it. And if we're looking at it like that, this is very serious. So, what could possibly be more worrisome than that? I can't imagine what's something that can like shift the power structure up. And even like the only thing that I could imagine really for that would fulfill this sort of requirement to be a real threat, all I can imagine is some kind of like piece of information. For example, a videotape of like a clandestine meeting of some of the big wigs and them talking about the way that, you know, they're cackling over how they run the world. I don't know. And it just doesn't really make sense because we're in this like we are in a lab. Why would something like that be kept in a lab in a big tank? So the other thing I'm thinking of is like, is it possible that this is all some like a big tank full of devil fruits that we're gonna bust out all these fruits and give them to all the straw hats? Honestly, I wish I hadn't thought of that because I love that idea so much. If it like that's the only thing that I can imagine is what if this is something that we could give all the straw hats magical powers? That sounds fantastic. And I don't yeah, that doesn't seem that doesn't really like feel like it would make sense for all of that to be located in one place on this island. So I just can't imagine that's correct either. But I don't know, you guys. I really don't know. And again, I only believe that Virgo would care if it were something that were going to mess up the current power structure, because Virgo is probably going to look to preserve that because he seems very much like a person who is out for number one primarily. So I don't know what could make him that anxious, you know? I really don't have any ideas on this. It's kind of great. I enjoy not being able to come up with anything here. Um so anyway, I'm going to jump around a little bit here. We have the fight between Sanji and Virgo, and Virgo like really goes for Sanji in a moment that is I kind of love that he stands up and Sanji just gets this expression on his face like, "Oh shit." Like I really woke up the fucking, woke the dragon now. Um, and the gas is like right behind them, billowing into the room, and all of these other Marines who are truly startled at the fact that a straw hat has thrown in for them. They're watching Sanji fight this guy allegedly on their behalf. Now, Sanji repeatedly tells them, "This is not about you. If you could get me a little kiss from Tashigi, I might be grateful, but I don't want to hear y'all's thanks because who gives a shit? I'm not doing this for you." He is so disdainful of them. I was like, Sanji, you could chill out like a little bit. You could just be a little bit less rude, like outright rude. But no, he's in that headspace right now. And these dudes are watching Sanji fight as the doors are closing and about to lock him in with Virgo and all of this gas. And basically, what happens is there's an announcement about how Law is in this certain section of the lab. Virgo stands up and is just like, wait, what? Realizes some shit's going on, and that essentially what has happened is that the Straw Hats have all been sent to distract him so that Law could go and do his own thing. Which it's funny because, like, when he first heard that or surmised that all of the Straw Hats and the Marines and whatnot that were in that cage were out, the first thing Virgo says is, well, I don't really like the fact that Law is out there, so I probably am going to have to go deal with this guy myself. And yet, despite saying that to himself, evidently he did no such thing and just, you know, did let himself get distracted, which is kind of embarrassing considering how much it seemed like his initial instinct was, uh-oh, that's bad news. And then he just like forgot about it. Um, but he just takes off and leaves Sanji. So it's not like Sanji won the fight or anything. Sanji just gets abandoned for bigger, badder prey. And Sanji is able to get out in time. It's sort of unclear to me exactly how he does this. Because you guys, the Marines are all like watching him, trying to be like, dude, come out here. The doors are closing. You're going to be locked in with the gas. We see the doors close. Sanji turns, and all of these dudes are like passed out on the ground, having already been got by the gas. I am not entirely sure how they got and Sanji didn't, because they are behind him and like near to the door, I thought. But it doesn't matter. In whatever the case, the doors, it seemed, are already closed. And when Sanji comes out and he's carrying those like passed out dudes under each arm, what it looks like to me is like he just jumped over the wall. And that can't be right. Right? Like the gas would be able to come into this part of the lab if there were just an opening like above the door. That wouldn't that doesn't make sense. So I don't understand exactly how he got away. I must have missed something. I don't know. But if anybody out there has their, ideas or actual facts on this, do let me know because I am curious. So all right, let's go. I'm going to bounce back a little bit here because this fucking dragon is still chasing our friends, and you guys, I'm going to just sort of summarize. Y'all know how I feel already about this poor dragon getting beat up on. I didn't like the dragon turning into a bad guy at all. I was enjoying our silly little mischievous bad guy dragon, but I didn't want him to get his ass kicked. And then it's not just that he gets like attacked by our guys and taken down, but we have this prolonged bit where the samurai is kicking him over and over again. And I haven't loved the samurai mostly, and this made me like outright dislike him and just be like, dude, what the fuck? And then eventually we get some information that basically is hinting this dragon used to be a little kid. Now, I don't know about y'all. This was disturbing to me. Like, really, genuinely, I was like, hold on. I already don't like the dragon as a cute little animal getting beaten up. But then you cross a line and make it so that this adorable creature used to be a human child that like got experimented on or did something wrong. The way the little girl describes it later on to the two guards is he went into the room, the secret room that nobody is allowed in, and turned into a dragon. So she makes it sort of sound like this guy was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, and there was an effect on him that wasn't intentionally like performed. It sounds like we did like this thing happened to him because he was in the wrong place. He was somewhere that he shouldn't have been. Now, I am not sure. It seems to me like we're hinting at the end of these three episodes when we see Caesar Clown in this like weird room about to do something that he keeps being like, you guys pushed me and I'm going to, take this to the next level. My thought has been, is he about to turn himself into a dragon? I don't really know what kind of advantage that would give him. It feels like currently his Logia type power, that's quite strong enough. I don't know that being a dragon is more effective or intimidating than just doing what he is. So I may be wrong about that, but the thing with the kid and him turning into a dragon, it's sort of like unclear to me. Is this a purposeful uh like experiment that was done explicitly to this kid, or was this something that has been being worked on in a sort of theoretical sense? And then this kid walked into it and there had not been the intention of doing this to him. And I'll freely admit, me kind of even asking this question is clinging a little bit to wishing that things weren't as bad as they look, because it's obvious already that we have been doing experiments on these kids to make them way bigger. There's already been stuff done to them. The drug that they have been fed, like clearly these are not, we have not been worried about the welfare of these children. So I don't know why I'm trying to make excuses as to why him being turned into a dragon might not even be what we meant to have happen, or maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. Like already we have plenty that's as bad as it sounds. But I guess there's just something in me that wants this to be like a mistake. I don't know. But anyway, all this to say, if this dragon that we have just watched getting beaten up by this man is actually a little boy, I am going to feel quite a way about it. I don't mind telling y'all. It's going to be like, I genuinely don't know. Short of just turning him back from a dragon into a little boy, which maybe that will be possible, but I just feel so bad for him, and I have always had this knee-jerk reaction to whenever like the animal characters in this show get hurt, that finding out this had been a person at one point is now going to make me so fucking paranoid. Every time you come across another animal that is being mistreated, I'm going to be so much more up in my feelings even than I already was. And we don't need that. Nobody needed me to be even more reactive to this than I have been. I fully recognize the way I react to it hasn't been reasonable to begin with. So I don't like knowing that from here on out, I'm going to be even more concerned. But I just wanted to give you all a heads up about it because that's how I'm feeling. So anyway, this fight between Luffy and Caesar, uh, the whole like fight kind of eventually turns into, well, I have bigger fish to fry because Law is about to head for this thing. So I'm going to take off. He basically does the same thing to Luffy that Virgo does to Sanji. And as Luffy tries to follow him, Monet jumps in and is like, no, 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 you're not going to follow him. And she says Joker would kill me if I allowed that. And when she says this, we jump to the moment where the announcement happens about how Law got into this other part of the lab, yada yada yada. And then we go into the next episode. And you guys, I don't even know what to make of this. There's this whole thing with Joker, aka Doflamingo, just lounging by a pool. He's evidently just having a little chat with Virgo from inside the building. I want to mention too, Virgo is flying through the air. Now, we had that whole title last section, Demon Bamboo Virgo. And I said then, I have not seen this demon bamboo thing. What is this? And I was waiting for it in this section, and we still don't see it. I don't like, we've seen him use hockey, but as for that kind of ability, like something specific to bamboo, I'm not getting it. And then here we see him literally flying through the air, and he's sort of like it almost looks like he's using like a pogo stick in midair. It's like he does a sort of crouch motion and then straightens, and it propels him. And I don't know if it's supposed to be that this is just an effect of hockey, that he is managing to do this through that, the way that Sanji can like walk on air using hockey, I'm assuming, which was not like, I already said, the fact that Sanji was able to use hockey didn't feel super clear to me anyway, because I already, when it was mentioned that both Sanji and Zoro could use it, I was sort of like, wait, oh, they can? It's sort of hard for me to tell what is hockey and what is just them being able to do bonkers superhuman stuff, because low key, they've always been able to do bonkers superhuman stuff. The things that Zoro has been able to do have been sort of hand waved as like, oh, yeah, well, that's a swordsman for you. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's not what being a swordsman is. That's magic. So I get very fuzzy on what I'm supposed to see as actual hockey and what is just having incredible skill in this one particular area. So I don't know if this that he is doing is part of hockey, if it's part of like a devil fruit power. If it is, I don't know what the fuck the bamboo thing has to do with it. I'm wondering if like the demon bamboo thing is part of a different, like a weird translation issue. I don't know. Or maybe it's the sort of thing where like, if you've read the manga, you know that he has this bamboo power. And so this is just being said very matter of factly here, even though we don't actually have the information yet. I don't know. But anyway, Virgo is heading over there. And then we have this like Doflamingo talking to him poolside. And what's going on with Doflamingo is so weird. So we get to see like this sun-drenched paradise that he is currently in, which like compared to where our friends are, it's just very unfair. And it's definitely giving like mob boss. He's sitting on the edge of the pool and he's got his henchmen gathered around him for protection. And then otherwise than those three dudes, it's all gorgeous women lounging in bikinis in the pool, except for one little girl that is sitting beside him. And she's got this weird sort of monocle going on, and she's eating berries that she has stuck on her fingers the way that you would do with like raspberries when you were a little kid. Um so yeah, Doflamingo, he's getting told about the fact that this dude who had been on his side is going after Sad, and he's just basically like, wow, that's gratitude for you. So he made it all the way to the manufacturing room. As he's saying this, a woman bursts through the plate glass window she is labeled Baby 5 in the subject or the subtitles, and she is wearing a like dark magenta maid's outfit, but she's outfitted with a what looks to be a samurai sword, a rifle, and it looks like one arm is a shotgun. And she comes and just like lands on the arms of Doflamingo's seat and has this barrel of this gun pointed right at his head. Doflamingo has absolutely no reaction to this whatsoever. You guys, I had no idea what to make of this. And I will say, like, by the end of this, we don't really get a good explanation. Or I say good, we don't get any explanation. She keeps talking about how he's making a mockery of her love, but I'm not sure if it's supposed to be that, like, because she's labeled Baby 5, is it meant to be that she's his fifth girlfriend, but she didn't know that he had other girlfriends? Is it that she's about to, like, that he's going to hurt Law and she is romantically involved with Trafalgar Law, and so she's overhearing this plan and she's upset about it? Um, she's like smoking and crying at the same time, and she pulls the trigger on this shotgun that's in his face. There's this huge explosion. Doflamingo doesn't even pause in his conversation. We see that the whole couch has been blown away. He's lying flat on his back, but he is unhurt. There's clouds of smoke and everything, but it doesn't seem to have done anything. You guys, I don't understand weapons in this universe. I really don't. Like, why bother having rifles and stuff if nobody can die? Who cares? This is stupid. I don't, And then she says something about him making a mockery of her love. Her arm turns into these giant blades, and she comes at him again, trying to, like, slice him up, I guess. Doflamingo is like, he is the only one who can make sad. That's what he says. I'm going to read this, make sure. Bastard, how could you do this to my love? I'm assuming this has to be about Law, right? Because the thing is, do this to my love could be taken more than one way. It could be Trafalgar Law is my love, and you are doing this thing to him. That could be one. It could also be, how can you do this to my love? I loved you and you disregarded it by cheating on me. You took my love for granted. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a couple ways that you could take it. So I truly don't know, like, what way I'm meant to take it. And I'm going with the meaning that I think is the most likely, which is that it's about killing Trafalgar. But I will be honest, initially, I did think it was about her love for Doflamingo. Um, yeah, he's the only one who can make sad, or rather, he's the only one who even knows how. Frankly, if Law is able to pull that off, then we've got a big problem, Virgo. Um, so one of his henchmen shoots Baby 5 in the arm. And he continues on talking about how this is my business. If this dries up, people are going to be angry. His other henchman, who is this giant blonde bearded, like, I don't even know what to call him. He's wearing this weird hat like he's a train conductor or something. He's like, what are you doing, Baby 5? You should be glad he's so forgiving. And she just says, I'm gonna kill him with my own two hands. You can't stop me. This is the last straw. So yeah, she is continuing. And Doflamingo is saying, um, my misfortune is going to be his next. Then we have like the shadows of some people talking. I think that this might be Big Ma, who was like the candy addict, but I might be wrong. She's in such heavy shadow. And she's saying, poor Law, that adorable little scamp, young master, whatever are you going to do to him? And then Lao Ji says, you know very well, Law will get exactly what he deserves, that traitor. I don't think we know who Lao Ji is. I know the name because it's in the subtitle, but I am not sure exactly like who these two people are here. So just, saying the names, I don't want to get more credit than I'm due, as if I'm aware what role these characters are playing. And then the scene sort of wraps with Doflamingo saying to Virgo, this is so funny, you guys. He says, I want you to make his death as like gruesome and painful as possible. And Virgo says, no problem. I'll take a picture and send it to you. Do you remember that camera I'm always using? And Doflamingo says, what the hell are you talking about? You don't have a camera. And he says, oh, right. Actually, I don't think I've ever taken a single photo in my life. You guys, this character trait is strange. Virgo, what a strange character. Meanwhile, Baby Five is continuing to come after him. She turned one arm into an axe. She turned the one finger into like a pistol. So as she's trying to come at him, Doflamingo is just like over his shoulder motioning, and he makes her hand go up to her own temple with that pistol tip and basically forces her to shoot herself in the head. I mean, that is a fucked up thing, you guys, that he was able to do this. And granted, again, these weapons don't kill people. So she's probably fine, you know? But it just the imagery of him forcing her hand up to her own head, that is just a really fucked up thing to watch. Seeing any time that you have like a character who can force people to do to themselves a terrible thing, that was part of what made the Purple Man in Jessica Jones so incredibly scary. He was one of the most terrifying villains I think I've ever seen. That was part of it. That this was stuff people were doing to themselves, you know? Um, So anyway, meanwhile, all of this is happening, and what Monet herself is working on is keeping Luffy distracted so that he can't go after Caesar. I should mention too that Monet just has this little tick where she just licks her lips all the time, and it's very off-putting. Um, so she grabs up Luffy using snow. She's apparently eaten the snow fruit. And at first, she kind of uses Snow as like tentacles to wrap around him. And she seems truly surprised at the fact that he is able to break out of that. But when he goes to punch her, she can just turn into Snow. It's like, there's a point later where she keeps turning in and out of Snow. And I sort of thought that she was making copies of herself with Snow because I had forgotten that she can become Snow and then, you know, like turn solid again. So she wasn't making copies of herself. She was just doing she was just I guess just forming and reforming around him. And it's really kind of creepy looking. But what she does eventually, because he's able to break through her Snow without too terribly much trouble, she decides that she's going to make an igloo around him. And even as he's breaking through one of them, she can make a new one around him fairly quickly and eventually makes one that's like 10 layers deep so that all the energy that he puts into breaking one of the igloos apart, there's still 9 more layers to go, and it tires him out. So this was a kind of a weird power, but I thought it worked pretty well. Eventually, what she does is she, you know, uses her body, her form of turning into snow, wraps her arms around him, and holds on to him to basically send him into hypothermia. And she does that thing where she's like, it's the cold is going to make you like slow down and get really sleepy. And then she does the whole like, just give into it, don't fight it, that whole thing. And like, it's genuinely a little disturbing because that is supposedly how it does go with hypothermia, is that it can feel like going to sleep. It seems like there's sort of a couple ways that it could go. I know as well that a lot of people who get hypothermic are discovered naked because the last thing that can happen to your body is that the sensors get overwhelmed essentially, and your body starts to confuse extreme cold with extreme heat. So you begin to think that you're overheating and you take off all your clothes trying to cool off because you don't realize that you are actually freezing to death. Um, but that is the point where Luffy kind of remembers the speech that Zoro gave about, guys, we can't be like playing this the way we have been anymore. This shit is serious, and it is time for us to get serious with it. And we're in the new world now. Time to play for keeps. So he, just as it seems like he is about to completely pass out and then probably eventually freeze to death, just as that is happening, his eyes shoot open and he breaks through. Instead of going upward, he breaks through the floor underneath him. And I'm trying to get to the spot because she says something about where it is that he is heading since he's going straight down. And her like assessment is basically he has dug his own grave by going downward, so it doesn't matter anyway. And she just leaves him. She walks away and doesn't concern herself with it. Here it is. That tumble is going to land him in the trash chute, which leads straight to the garbage dump that's deep underground. That's what it is. He won't be able to make it up here again unless he can fly. He dug his own grave, so to speak. So long. I just want to make a note here that the trash chute, the word shoot, it's the wrong one. They use the word shoot for shooting a gun instead of chute for that kind of shoot. And I don't know why, but I just find it funny to find that kind of typo in the subtitles. But yeah, so it's kind of funny because what I'm seeing is like the pattern here is our friends not necessarily being like crushed by their enemies the way they maybe should be. It's just the enemies getting distracted or thinking things are over for another reason and leaving. And this is the way we're sustaining that they like are, these are formidable people that probably could have beaten them if they had been forced to finish the fight. But because we didn't have to finish the fight, because they had somewhere else to go, something else to do, we just have to find a way to break this up into two parts. And honestly, having Law in the mix, I think it does this pretty effectively. Um, I really also kind of enjoy Monet as a character. She's not like completely fleshed out, obviously. I've been sort of puzzled at the way that she was just sitting around and listening to Caesar and sort of seeming to smirk to herself, because I was like, she doesn't seem to like this guy very much. Like, what is, and initially my thought when Virgo shows up was, oh, she's working with Virgo and doesn't respect Caesar. She is here like on assignment, and that is why she has sort of acted like Caesar's a joke. But the longer this goes on, the more I'm sort of like, that doesn't seem right either, because Caesar was also working with Virgo. They aren't on opposite sides of things. So why am I like, I think maybe that's just supposed to be her personality, is that she is unflappable, pun intended, because of her wings. But we don't know how she got her wings either. That's the other thing. When we have that one flashback, we see that she didn't have the wings back then, but we don't get the introduction of when she got them or why. Um and it's just kind of odd, like, that she has this snow power, but then she got given bird legs and wings. I don't really understand why she needs them. She's out here flying around like a bird. But if you can turn into snow, can't you just sort of fly in your snow form? Why do you even need to? Maybe it's for like the actual act of fighting that you need like a solid body, perhaps. But I kind of expected that we were going to get that storyline about what happened to her. I just honestly, what I keep thinking, you guys, is that she isn't really working with Caesar the way it looks like, because she just seems detached enough that I keep waiting for there to be this reveal of her being a traitor or having some kind of ulterior motive. And it's starting to really look like that's not going to happen. And that she just has been detached because, I don't know, that's just who she is. But I'm still kind of holding out that there's more going on with her. Um, all right, so let's talk about what's going on with Chopper real quick, because Chopper, he's off with Mocha, and what's going on there is that Mocha is going to try and keep the candy away from the kids, because she believes Chopper enough that this candy is bad for them. And the kids are breaking through this door. So eventually, when like Zoro and Nami and all of them catch up to, they're in like an area where they can see Chopper. They haven't totally like met up with him yet, and they can see that Chopper is in like his largest form and he's fighting these kids, and all of them are sort of like, what the fuck? Because Chopper fighting the children, it just doesn't really seem to make sense. You know, they're everybody's just, why? How is this happening? And Chopper himself, when we go back to him, these kids are too much for him. His rumble ball begins to wear off, and he's starting to transform back into himself. And y'all, I will tell you what, I felt so bad for Chopper. I don't know if it was just like, just, I, you guys know I have such a soft spot for Chopper anyway. I always want to see him getting a chance to like fight and show that he is a badass. And there was just something about the fact that he had to fight these children that he's trying to help, and was put in this position where he has to do this already, is so sad and like against all his instincts, I'm sure. But then that he loses, that they manage to like overwhelm him. I truly hated that. And then they get past him and they're busting into the room, but Mocha has taken all of the candy in an effort to keep it away from the rest of the kids. And I'm trying to find the spot here because, like, the kids, of course, see her with it, and they're coming at her, and she's trying to yell at them, guys, this is going to make you sick. just look at what it did to you. And all the other kids, their eyes are still white. It's not totally clear to me what exactly has caused her to be the only one to come back to her senses. Um, it seems like mm, it seems like it's maybe an accident. Like the way I was seeing it at first was that, oh, it's, to do with the fact that she was the first one to go into withdrawals. So she is the first one to get through it. But the kids are beginning to like attack her. And at this point, Nami and everybody have caught up with Chopper. I believe it's Nami that's carrying Chopper, and he's trying to like yell instructions, um, and just sort of give Mocha like motivation to get out of the room. And then all of a sudden, there's this like blast of icy air. The exit gets blocked up with snow. Of course, we know that this is fucking Monet. And then she shows up. She's like in her weird bird form. She's up there looking down at the kids, and the kids are ironically really happy to see her. Like, this is a good thing. I'm like, y'all, have you not learned yet? Even Mocha. Mocha is smiling and saying, Monet, it's you. Help me, please. Monet. I mean, not Monet, Mocha. Monet says, Mocha, you shouldn't hog all the candy. Be a nice girl and share it with the others, okay? And Mocha stops and just says to herself, huh? Like, she isn't understanding what this woman is saying. And I'm just, how do you not see that this woman is in on the whole thing? She's a kid, that's why. But it's just really frustrating because put two and two together at this point, Mocha. Everybody who works here is bad. So finally, she does understand. And she says, but Monet, why? And Monet just laughs and licks her lips and stares at her. And I was just like, girl, what are you doing? Monet, you have so much potential to be like a badass on your own. Go and do your own fucking thing. And stop working for this lunatic and stop like terrorizing these actual infant children. What are Monet, you're too good for this nonsense. Stop it. Um, so yeah, that's the summary of what's going on with Chopper. That hasn't been settled yet, I guess is the way that I want to put it. And then I'm having the moment where these subordinates, they're talking to each other about what the little girl said with the boy turning into a dragon. And they're like, how does she know about that? We have to let the master know right away. And this is one of those moments where I really have to remember that, like, every time we have Caesar Clown locking his minions outside to die in a poison gas land, and I start to feel sorry for them. I need to remind myself that they all knew this maniac was doing experiments on children and they just let him do it. Because I really do lose sight of their complicity in all of this. And I try to pretend like they don't know anything that's going on, but they know plenty of what's going on. And they keep still telling themselves that he's actually a decent guy, and it's doesn't you guys are not using any critical thinking. um so this is when we go to Caesar, and he is looking really pissed off. I've never thought I'd have to enter this secret room, much less make use of it. And it's clearly the secret room that turned that little kid into a dragon. That's what it seems like he is referencing. He opens the door and he says, but right now I'm afraid it's my only option. Pity. They just had to go and ruin everything. So things begin to turn on, and you see that this is a pretty run down space. There's lots of stuff that's like broken, and it's all sort of just like unused. And he's like, it's a pity things didn't go according to plan. It would have been a great show, more befitting of the world's greatest scientists, but they came along and spoiled all the fun. And he's just reflecting all on this. He's looking at all like the security camera footage. They will regret it. I'll make sure of that. When I'm done with them, they're going to wish they'd been sent to hell. Bow down to my scientific prowess. And like I said, I guess he's turning himself into a dragon, but I don't really know what that's going to do. He's got a pretty badass power already. I don't feel like that's going to help. And then lastly, the thing that like I'm going to talk about only very briefly because it didn't seem to go anywhere. We have the fight between Law and Virgo. And Virgo, in summary, just whoops Law's ass. Law has some like secret attack that he has up his sleeve that he seems to think is going to do something, but it doesn't apparently have any effect whatsoever. And reminder, Virgo is still in possession of Law's heart. So he just squeezes that thing and really causes Law to pass out instantly. It's like nothing. I am thinking like, oh, he's just going to kill him now. And then all of a sudden Virgo says, I'm in the middle of something. Does it have to be now? And he turns around and says, Vice Admiral Smoker. And I was like, oh, right, Smoker. I forgot. This dude is like been off camera forever. I just like forgot all about him. And Virgo's like, all right, I guess I've been needed to kill you, so I may as well do that. And Smoker's like, yeah, do it. Fucking kill me, you filthy pirate. And that is the end of the episode. So that's it, guys. And yeah, I don't have any fucking theories on what's happening next, except for my assumption that Caesar's going to turn himself into a dragon, which I don't even know why. So we'll see. Maybe being a dragon gives him other extra powers. Who knows? All right, everyone. Well, thank you all so much. Appreciate you all for listening. Thank you to Florian for commissioning. And I will see you soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.